Hey guys, tonight we drift into a universe that should be buzzing with life, yet somehow greets us with silence. You look out to the darkened window of your mind, and there it is, billions of stars, each one carrying potential planets. Each planet may be carrying seas, forests, or even sprawling alien cities. But what hits you most is not their brilliance. It's the absence of any reply. You lean in listening, waiting for a signal to pulse back, but all you hear is your own breathing. And to be honest, you probably won't survive this journey. Not physically anyway. This is the kind of ride that rearranges your imagination in ways you won't recover from. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop a comment with your location and local time. It's always eerie to think about how many of us, scattered across the planet, are staring into the same dark sky. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift through the Milky Way as if strapped into a quiet rail car, sliding across infinity. The first thing you notice is the sheer number of stars. Astronomers estimate over 100 billion of them in our galaxy alone, with possibly trillions of galaxies beyond. That's a number so large your brain can't quite wrestle into place. You try, but it slips away like sand between your fingers. And with every star comes a chance of planets, rocky, watery, warm, maybe even oxygen-rich. It feels almost absurd to suggest that out of this endless lottery, Earth is the only one holding tickets. Still, the silence presses in. Radio telescopes stretch their dishes skyward like eager ears, straining for a whisper of alien chatter. But the cosmos replies with a void, static that is less like background noise and more like a wall of nothing. Scientists still argue whether that nothing is a clue. Maybe civilizations are rare, maybe they're cautious, or maybe they flare up and burn out too quickly to be noticed. You can almost imagine yourself sitting in a theater, curtain drawn, waiting for a play that never begins. The weird part? Your gut insists there should be someone else out there. We've discovered exoplanets, worlds orbiting stars light years away, some even in that fabled Goldilocks zone, where water could flow like it does on Earth. Mainstream science tells you the odds lean heavily toward company, not loneliness. And yet here you are, floating in what feels like a galactic library after hours, rows and rows of shelves packed with books, but every page blank. Then there's the fringe whisper you can't quite shake. Some people claim the silence is artificial. They say our solar system sits inside a bubble, a deliberate shield or dampener, meant to keep Earth quarantined. A cosmic, do not disturb, sign hung up by whoever runs his neighborhood. Sounds a bit like the landlord keeping you away from the rowdy party upstairs. Maybe faraway civilizations are trading stories, building wonders, and occasionally pointing our way, only for their signals to vanish against an invisible barrier. You laugh, but it's the kind of laugh you make when the hair on your arms rises. Scientists once described it as the most troubling question of our time. If the universe is so vast and old, where is everybody? That's the Fermi Paradox in a nutshell. You don't need a degree in astrophysics to feel its weight. All you have to do is tilt your head back on a clear night and let the sky ask you the question directly. The silence is not passive, it's active, like it's daring you to keep listening. Your imagination doesn't need much encouragement. You picture civilization sprouting up like sparks across the galaxy, lighting fires of technology, sending probes, building structures. Some thrive for millennia, others collapse in centuries. And yet every single one leaves behind nothing you can detect. No crackle of a distress call, no megastructure blocking starlight, no wandering craft parked on the edge of the solar system like a galactic food truck. Nothing but quiet. It's unsettling in the same way as finding yourself alone in a shopping mall at night. You know the place should be filled with people, chatter, and movement. Instead, every escalator runs empty. Every store gate is shut, and the only sound is your footsteps echoing back. For a moment, you wonder if you've slipped into a version of reality that's out of sync with everyone else. And here's the cosmic joke number one. Humans are the species that sends rovers to Mars, but still loses Wi-Fi in the kitchen. You're straining to make contact across light years, but can't get a signal through two walls and a microwave. Maybe the silence is less about absence and more about your limitations. Perhaps the universe is screaming, and you're holding your ears shut without realizing it. The fact remains, if civilizations exist, they're keeping quiet in ways that baffle us. Maybe they use communication methods we don't even understand. Imagine trying to find Wi-Fi with a stone tablet. That's about where humanity is in galactic terms. Or maybe the silence is deliberate. Like hunters crouched in a forest, each one terrified to move. Because in the dark woods of the universe, the first sound could also be the last. Some scientists even suggest that life itself may be common, but intelligence, technology, societies, art, curiosity could be vanishingly rare. You can have a galaxy full of algae, microbial mats, and lonely moss clinging to rocks, but no one to send you a postcard. That's cosmic irony at its finest. Billions of life-bearing worlds, none with a decent pizza place or a rock band. The paradox hangs there like a riddle carved into the night sky. And as you float along, you begin to feel the weight of the question. It's not just academic. It's personal. Because if you're alone in this universe, then your voice is the only echo that will ever exist. But if you're not alone, then the silence means something else entirely. Something either chilling or profound. And there you are, drifting, eyes half closed, lulled by the thought that you are standing at the edge of the greatest mystery in human history. The stars keep their counsel, offering you no easy answer. The quiet is almost a lullaby. Almost. You glide forward, the darkness rippling around you like water, and your mind drifts to numbers. If the universe feels quiet, maybe the best way to confront that silence is to count. You find yourself floating beside a chalkboard stretching across the sky, filled with the strange, almost childlike symbols of the Drake equation. It's not a riddle carved into stone, but a formula that dares to tally the odds of alien life. The Drake equation looks simple at first. Take the number of stars born each year in the galaxy, multiply by how many are planets, then by how many of those planets might be habitable, then by how many develop life, then intelligence, then technology, and finally by how long those civilizations last. It's basically cosmic gambling math. But when you start plugging in numbers, your head spins. Because the truth is, many of those values are guesswork. Scientists still argue whether the probabilities are generous or hopelessly slim. What makes it tricky is that we already know some of the early numbers are huge. For example, astronomers estimate that our galaxy alone births about 7 new stars every year. And thanks to missions like Kepler, we now know planets are ridiculously common. It's not just stars with planets. It's most stars. The Milky Way might be home to hundreds of billions of them. That alone should make you feel like you're sitting in a crowded train station. But instead, you're the only one on the bench and no announcements are being made. So where's everybody hiding? If you're the impatient type, the temptation is to crank up the probabilities. Assume that life springs up often and intelligence follows naturally. That leads to billions of potential civilizations out there. But if you're a pessimist, you start sliding those fractions way down. Maybe habitable planets are rare. Maybe life is stubborn. Maybe intelligent life is a fluke, like a lottery when you can't repeat. And suddenly, instead of billions of civilizations, the math spits out one. Just one. You hover in the void, running the numbers over and over, as though the equation were a slot machine you could nudge into giving you a jackpot. But the more you think about it, the more you realize it's not really an equation. It's a mirror. The numbers you pick reflect what you hope or fear about the universe. Of course, quirky side theories pop up like mischievous classmates. There's a fringe idea that the math is rigged against us because our view of life is too narrow. What if life doesn't need Earth-like conditions at all? Some theorists talk about shadow biospheres, alien forms of life that might already exist right under our noses on Earth, using weird biochemistry we've never recognized. If that's true, the probabilities of life out there are far higher than we've dared to guess. It would mean the cosmos isn't just fertile, it's overgrown. But let's play devil's advocate. Even if the odds of intelligent civilizations are small, the galaxy is so old, over 13 billion years, that civilizations could have had countless chances to rise and fall. You're late to the party, and the dance floor should be littered with cosmic footprints. If the math says even a handful of advanced societies should exist right now, why can't you spot any? That's the paradox staring you down. And here comes cosmic joke number 2. You can't even get consensus on the number of pizzas a group of 5 people should order. Yet here you are, trying to calculate the number of alien civilizations across an entire galaxy. No, one of the answers keeps slipping. The longer you linger on the equation, the more you sense its dual nature. On one hand, it fills you with hope. The math practically begs you to believe you're not alone. On the other hand, it taunts you with silence, as if the chalkboard erases itself every time you blink. You can almost hear the universe chuckle, "Nice math. Cute. Now back to your static." One fact you can't ignore. The deeper scientists peer into galaxy, the more planets they find that could support life. Some even carry strange similarities to Earth. Oceans, rocky surfaces, the right distance from their star. If Earth is not special, then the equation should tilt heavily toward company. And yet, no company appears. Scientists still argue whether this means we misunderstood life's odds, or whether the missing ingredient isn't planets at all, but time. Because here's the cruel reality. Civilizations don't just need to exist. They need to exist at the same time. Imagine 2 ships passing in the night, both with their lights off. Even if civilizations thrive, the odds of overlapping in the same cosmic moment might be tiny. A species that flourished 1 billion years ago might have left nothing but dust by the time you arrived. The Drake equation doesn't capture that heartbreak. It doesn't account for loneliness across time. You float away from the chalkboard, letting it dissolve into starlight, and suddenly you're surrounded by rows of slot machines clinking in silence. Each one spins with probability, numbers blurring into infinity. The jackpot is alien contact. The reels spin, clatter, and stop, empty every time. And yet, like any gambler, you keep pulling the lever. Because as long as the math suggests even a slim chance, you can't stop. The quiet presses closer. For a moment, you wonder if the universe itself is pranking you. What if it's less about the odds and more about the test? A cosmic patience game, waiting to see if humanity can sit still, eyes open, ears wide, long enough to hear the faintest hello drifting across light years. And that thought lingers as you drift further, the cosmic chalkboard behind you and the silence ahead. You're not just asking where everybody is. You're asking whether your own calculations blind you to an answer that's been shimmering in plain sight all along. You float deeper into the dark, past the chalkboard of probabilities, and into a far heavier thought. The silence isn't just strange, it might be a warning. You're entering the realm of the great filters, those invisible checkpoints that every civilization must pass through if it hopes to spread across the stars. The unsettling part is this. Maybe almost no one gets past them. A great filter is like a cosmic bouncer, standing at the door of the future with arms crossed. To even make it into the galaxy-wide party, a species has to clear the hurdles of biology, environment, technology, and survival. Fail at any step, and you're swept off the stage without a sound. You start to feel like humanity is running an obstacle course in the dark, unsure which hurdles are behind you and which are waiting just up ahead. The early filters might be things you've already survived without realizing it. Life itself could be extraordinarily hard to start. After all, the Earth had just the right cocktail of water, chemicals, and time before something microscopic twitched into motion. Scientists still argue whether life's origin is inevitable given the right conditions, or so improbable that it might have happened only once in the universe. If the latter is true, congratulations, you already slipped past the scariest filter without noticing. You're a cosmic lottery winner. But then there's the possibility that the great filter lies ahead, and that thought is enough to send a shiver through your drifting body. Civilizations might be easy to spark, but nearly impossible to keep alive. Maybe intelligence leads inevitably to self-destruction. You invent fire, then bombs, then weapons powerful enough to turn a planet into glass. Maybe you poison your own world before you ever get the chance to leave it. That would explain the silence. Most species burn out before their first interstellar postcard. You glance around at the stars and can almost imagine entire civilizations blinking out, one after another, like candles in a draft. You don't see their ruins, because in the scale of time, the evidence crumbles fast. 1,000,000 years in the cosmos is a blink. Maybe you're floating through a graveyard without even realizing it. Here's cosmic joke number 3. Humanity is clever enough to split atoms, but still hasn't figured out how to keep milk from spoiling after a week. Advanced, yes. Wise? Debatable. If every alien civilization faced the same imbalance, high-tech brilliance but short-term thinking, then maybe the great filter is less a hurdle and more of a trapdoor. Some fringe theories even push the idea further. What if the universe itself has a built-in reset button? Some claim that advanced civilizations eventually toy with physics in ways that destabilize reality. Mini black holes, runaway nanotech, rogue artificial intelligence. Maybe there's a self-destruct sequence baked into intelligence, a cosmic oops that makes sure no one gets too far ahead. Like toddlers playing with scissors, you don't get many chances to mess up before the silence returns. Scientists still argue whether humanity's current era is the most dangerous time in its history. On one hand, you survived countless past threats, plagues, asteroids, ice ages. On the other, you now carry tools of extinction in your own pockets. Nuclear war, climate collapse, or technology spiraling beyond your control. These might not just be global problems. They might be the universal story, repeating until the stars forget each attempt. But here's where the thought gets even stranger. If the great filter is behind you, then you might be one of the very few who made it through. That would make humanity rare, precious, maybe even the first to have a shot at colonizing the galaxy. If the great filter is ahead, though, then the silence is not company at all. It's ominous. You're staring down a dark hallway where every other traveler has fallen, and the thought sticks in your chest. You can't tell where you are on the timeline. Are you the lone survivor or the next in line? The paradox doesn't tell you. It only whispers, keep walking. Fringe enthusiasts sometimes suggest that the silence itself is the filter. Maybe advanced civilizations deliberately choose quietness, understanding that too much noise invites destruction. It's less about failing and more about hiding. A galaxy filled with whispering species, each one terrified of being the first to shout. That a filter of fear, and it's one you can almost feel tightening around you now. You drift past these invisible hurdles, realizing that the question of survival is less about math and more about fragility. Life is astonishingly delicate, even when it thinks it's powerful. And in the stillness of the universe, you start to suspect the silence is less an accident and more a message carved into the stars. Don't mess up. Your body grows heavy with the weight of that thought, as though every star around you is pressing down with its gravity. The journey ahead feels uncertain, maybe doomed, but you can't look away. Because even if the silence is a graveyard, you're still moving through it, candle in hand, daring to imagine what lies beyond. You drift on, leaving behind the invisible hurdles of the great filters, and find yourself gliding into what feels like a cosmic cemetery. The stars around you no longer shine with youthful fire. They hang heavy dim, like candles long since burned down. You can't help but wonder if each glow is a headstone, marking the memory of a civilization that once tried and failed to stretch across the galaxy. The silence here feels thicker, almost textured. You imagine ruined worlds orbiting these stars. Planets where skyscrapers once clawed the sky but now lie buried under shifting sands. Oceans that swallowed whole continents. Or cities reduced to rubble by wars no one survived or regret. You don't see the evidence directly, but you don't need to. The imagination paints it vividly enough. You're walking through graveyards without tombstones, where the only inscription is silence. It's not hard to believe. After all, Earth has flirted with catastrophe more than once. Supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, mass extinctions. If intelligent life emerged here, maybe it also emerged elsewhere, and then vanished just as quickly. Scientists still argue whether civilizations can leave lasting traces in a universe where time erases everything. On cosmic scales, stone crumbles, steel rusts, even radio signals fade into static. 100,000 years can turn a bustling planet into a smooth, quiet marble. And then the odd thought hits you. Maybe you have already seen ruins without realizing it. Some scientists suggest that the strange patterns in radio noise or unexplained anomalies in starlight could be the fingerprint of ancient civilizations. We might be staring at dead worlds and mistaking them for natural phenomena. It's the equivalent of finding a broken iPhone in the desert and thinking it's just a pretty rock. Of course, fringe ideas go even further. Some say the moon itself is an ancient ruin, a hollowed-out relic, maybe even an abandoned alien outpost. Others whisper that Mars once held civilizations whose traces are buried beneath its dust storms. You glance toward that red world and can almost see faint outlines of cities in its canyons, long gone but still haunting. It might be nonsense, but it's the kind of nonsense that keeps you awake at night. staring at the ceiling. The silence of these graveyards doesn't feel empty. It feels full of ghosts. Imagine civilizations that mastered their planets, built wonders, maybe even reached the stars, only collapse under the weight of their own fragility. Droughts, plagues, or perhaps the inevitable arrogance that comes with power. You float past them and wonder if their warnings echo in your own history. Rome fell. Empires crumble. Maybe the universe has seen this story so many times it doesn't bother recording the endings anymore. And here's cosmic joke number 4. Humanity hasn't even figured out how to keep email spam under control, but we're worried about surviving the next million years. If alien civilizations were anything like us, they probably had their equivalent of spam too, flooding their networks until they couldn't find the real signals. Maybe the silence isn't silence at all, just a clutter of civilizations drowning in their own noise until the signal faded out completely. One mainstream fact offers a chilling parallel. About 65 million years ago, an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, clearing the stage for mammals and eventually for you. If that asteroid had been a little bigger or a little later, you wouldn't be here. Multiply that kind of cosmic bad luck across billions of planets, and maybe civilizations really are fragile sparks, blown out by chance before they can spread their light. But here's the haunting twist. The silence doesn't tell you whether these graveyards are behind you or ahead. You might be floating past the echoes of others' failures, or you might be glimpsing your own future reflected back. Either way, you're in the company of ghosts. Scientists still argue whether a truly advanced civilization could survive these trials indefinitely. Maybe they build machines to guard against asteroids, terraform planets to soften disasters, or spread across multiple worlds to avoid putting all their eggs in one basket. If that's true, you should see their traces. Structure spanning star systems, Dyson spheres glowing in the dark. Yet you don't, which suggests maybe even the cleverest civilizations fall eventually. You close your eyes, and the silence feels almost like mourning, a lullaby sung by the universe itself, soft and endless. These graveyards don't scare you, they humble you. They remind you that even if life is common, permanence is not. Everything passes, everything fades, and one day, Earth too may be reduced to silence, folded neatly into the graveyard, without anyone left to remember it. But in this moment, as you drift past these imagined ruins, the thought that comforts you is simple. If civilizations have risen and fallen before, then at least humanity is not alone in the struggle. The silence may be a graveyard, but graveyards mean there was once life, and that life, however brief, burned bright enough to leave you wondering. You slip past the imagined graveyards and into something stranger. The silence no longer feels like emptiness. It feels deliberate, as if it's being curated. That's when you stumble into the thought experiment people call the zoo hypothesis. The idea is almost embarrassingly simple. Maybe you're not alone, but you're being kept isolated, like animals behind glass, watched but never contacted. The first thing you picture is a cosmic zoo, galaxies as sprawling enclosures, each star system a little pen. Earth becomes one of those odd exhibits, the kind people stop by for a few minutes before moving on. Somewhere out there, perhaps in orbit around a distant star, there could be a galactic visitor center with a plaque that reads, Asterisk, Earth, developing civilization, do not disturb. Asterisk, you laugh, but it's the kind of laugh that tightens your throat a little. It's not entirely unscientific. Some scholars suggest that if a highly advanced species is already spread across the galaxy, they might adopt a non-interference policy. Just as humans set aside wildlife reserves and limit contact with indigenous tribes, aliens might consider Earth too young, too fragile, or simply too uninteresting to disturb. Scientists still argue whether such restraint is realistic. Would a species advanced enough to travel the stars truly care about letting you evolve naturally, or would curiosity get the better of them? The zoo idea explains the silence in a tidy way. It's not that nobody's out there. It's that everyone agreed not to talk to you. The rules might be strict. No contact, no signals, no interference. Imagine living in a small town where the entire neighborhood has a secret group chat, but you're the only one not invited. That's the level of awkward isolation you're floating in. Of course, fringe enthusiasts stretch the hypothesis further. Some suggest that aliens not only watch, but occasionally poke at the glass. Strange lights in the sky, odd radio bursts, bizarre reports of encounters, all of it fits into the narrative of zookeepers checking the locks on the cage. Maybe UFO sightings aren't proof of invasion, but reminders that the enclosure is secure. You roll your eyes, but the idea lingers longer than you'd like. And here's cosmic joke number 5. Humans literally put webcams on panda enclosures and stream them 24/7, and people around the world tune in. If Earth is a zoo, maybe somewhere in the galaxy there's a bored alien teenager live streaming your daily commute for kicks. Watch this one struggle with traffic. Hilarious. You can almost hear the hum of surveillance. Every radio transmission, every burst of television, every rocket launch. It's all part of the exhibit. Maybe that's why no one responds. You're not being ignored. You're being studied, cataloged, and maybe even graded. You wonder what the report card says. Species demonstrates clever use of opposable thumbs. Social cohesion, questionable. Risk of self-extinction, high. Mainstream science reminds you that, statistically, if a civilization had a million-year head start on humanity, they could easily manage this kind of quiet observation. Their technology would be so advanced that you wouldn't even recognize it. It would be like ants trying to notice a drone overhead. They'd feel the wind, maybe the shadow, but never grasp the machine itself. Yet there's a darker twist to the zoo idea. Maybe you're not in a wildlife preserve at all. Maybe you're in a laboratory. Instead of zookeepers, the beings out there are scientists running experiments, adjusting variables, observing reactions. The silence isn't kindness. It's control. You're not protected. You're a petri dish. You almost prefer the zoo version. At least zookeepers sometimes care about their animals. Scientists still argue whether humans would even recognize alien contact if it happened. If a civilization wanted to observe without interference, they could slip their signals beneath the noise floor, mask them as natural cosmic radiation, or encode them in ways you don't yet know how to decode. You might already be swimming in alien messages and not realize it. The silence might be an illusion created by your own ignorance. You drift deeper into this unsettling idea, and suddenly the stars don't look indifferent anymore. They look watchful. A billion glowing eyes, patient and curious. You're not alone, you're on display. And the worst part is you don't know why. Are you entertainment? A curiosity? A warning to others? Or just one more data point in a cosmic census? The thought makes your skin crawl, but at the same time, it softens something inside you. Because if the zoo hypothesis is true, then you're not alone. You're surrounded by silent watchers. The quiet isn't a void, it's a veil. And maybe, just maybe, when humanity is ready, the zookeepers will unlock the gates. Until then, you drift, one small creature in a cosmic terrarium, whispering questions to glass, waiting for the day something whispers back. You move beyond the imagined zoo, where glass walls keep you from the rest of the cosmos, and drift into something darker. The silence around you no longer feels protective. It feels predatory. You enter the thought world of the dark forest. The dark forest idea doesn't bother with kindness. It says the universe is like a vast, pitch-black woodland. Every civilization is a hunter with a loaded rifle, creeping quietly among the trees. The rule is simple. Stay hidden, because if you reveal yourself, someone else might take the shot. The silence of the galaxy isn't puzzling. It's survival. You can almost picture it. A civilization discovers radio technology, shouts a hello into the dark, and within a few centuries they're gone, wiped out before they could even see who was listening. If the dark forest is true, the silence isn't strange at all. It's inevitable. Everyone is too scared to speak. Scientists still argue whether this paranoia reflects reality or just our own human fears projected onto the stars. One mainstream fact gives a theory teeth. In the past century, humanity has already leaked thousands of radio and TV broadcasts into space. Those signals race outward at the speed of light, forming a growing bubble around Earth. Right now, it stretches over 100 light years in every direction. If there's anyone out there listening, they already know you exist. Which means, if the forest is real, you've already lit a campfire in the middle of the dark. And here's cosmic joke number 6. Humans still argue about whether pineapple belongs on pizza, but you've been loudly announcing your presence to the galaxy with soap operas, political speeches, and reality TV. If aliens are listening, Earth's grand introduction might be reruns of game shows, not exactly the message of a wise, unified species. Fringe whispers add extra unease. Some claim strange bursts of energy we've picked up, like the famous wow signal, weren't accidental. They were warnings, shouts cut off mid-sentence, as if civilizations revealed themselves and were silenced soon after. A cosmic gunshot in the distance that no one talks about. It's probably nonsense, but drifting through the forest of stars, you can almost hear the crunch of a twig beneath a hidden footstep. In the dark forest, survival means secrecy. Don't broadcast, don't respond, don't even light a candle. Civilizations might cloak themselves, burying their signals beneath noise, disguising their planets, even dimming their stars with technology. You imagine worlds wrapped in shrouds, silent cities under skies with no satellites, whole civilizations whispering to themselves in underground chambers. It's eerie but logical. Scientists still argue whether advanced civilizations would truly act this way. Some say cooperation, not fear, should dominate. But even a tiny risk of destruction might be enough to keep everyone quiet. After all, if you're wandering a dark forest and you hear a sound, you don't shout, "Hey, who's there?" You freeze. You listen. You hide. The silence of the universe starts to feel heavier in this light. It isn't the silence of indifference. It's the silence of caution. Billions of civilizations, all crouched in the shadows, each one terrified of giving itself away. And here you are, drifting noisily through the forest, carrying your bubble of radio chatter like a lantern. You can't help but wonder if anyone is watching, rifle raised, deciding whether to pull the trigger. You lean into the idea and realize something uncomfortable. Maybe the reason Earth hasn't been contacted yet is because no one wants to risk it. If one civilization decides to reveal itself, others might feel threatened and strike. A chain reaction of fear. In that sense, the silence is mercy. It's restraint. It's everyone choosing not to ruin the fragile balance. But the thought creeps in, what if the silence doesn't last? What if someone, somewhere decides to take the shot? You drift through the stars, half expecting to see a sudden flash, a beam slicing across the void, reaching toward Earth. If the force is real, then survival isn't guaranteed. It's just a delay. And yet, there's a strange piece in the thought. If every civilization hides, then you're part of a secret society spanning the galaxy, united by fear, but also by the shared desire to endure. The silence isn't empty. It's full of whispers never spoken aloud. The dark forest doesn't comfort you, but it does explain the quiet in a way that feels hauntingly plausible. You drift on, lantern dimmed, heart steady, ears straining for the faintest sound in the branches. You drift out of the dark forest, lantern dimmed, nerves taut, and find yourself circling a much more playful, though equally unsettling idea. If the silence isn't because aliens are hiding, maybe it's because they've already been here. Not in the future, not waiting for contact, but in the past, or even now. The thought is almost too easy to mock, which is why it lingers. You've heard the stories. Saucer-shaped craft slipping across the night sky, blinking lights zigzagging like no human aircraft, figures tall and pale stepping out of the shadows. For decades, people have sworn by sightings, encounters, abductions. Some claim governments are hiding the evidence in dusty vaults, locked away under hangars, buried in desert bunkers. Scientists still argue whether such claims are all fantasy, misidentification, or part of a cover-up too large to unravel. You can't deny it, though. The lore has weight. Ancient carvings that look suspiciously like astronauts. Myths of gods descending from the heavens in blazing chariots. Civilizations that suddenly leapt forward in technology, as if nudged by unseen hands. Fringe believers weave it all together into one grand story. Aliens have visited Earth many times, and they might still be here, quietly steering history while staying out of sight. And here's cosmic joke number 7. Humanity can barely keep a celebrity breakup secret for more than a week, but somehow the idea persists that world governments have hidden alien contact for decades without a single leak unraveling it all. If that's true, then aliens aren't a mystery. Our ability to keep a secret is. Mainstream fact offers a curious counterpoint. Every year, radar stations and observatories record hundreds of unidentified aerial phenomena, objects moving in ways that defy our current understanding. Most get explained as planes, balloons, or atmospheric tricks, but not all. A handful stay stubbornly strange. They don't prove anything, but they keep the door open. The fringe goes further still. Some say alien technology is already embedded in human progress. Microchips, fiber optics, stealth systems. Leaps so fast they look less like invention and more like adaptation. You look around your own world and wonder, are your gadgets truly your own, or are they souvenirs borrowed from a visitor's toolkit? It's an idea you can laugh off until you glance at your phone and imagine someone, somewhere, watching through it. But even if you dismiss the abduction stories and the glowing saucers, the larger question nags. If aliens have been here, why stay quiet now? Why not step forward, announce themselves, and end the guessing game? Maybe the answer loops back to the zoo. Maybe their goal was never contact, only observation. Or maybe they visited, judged humanity not ready, and left, sealing the skies behind them. That possibility stings. The idea that you were auditioned for a role in galactic drama and didn't make the cut. Scientists still argue whether the lack of solid evidence proves absence or simply a failure to interpret what's already under our noses. It's possible the whole UFO phenomenon is a cultural mirror, reflecting your hopes and fears more than reality. But it's also possible the silence of the cosmos is less silent than you think. Because the whispers have already been heard, just not believed. You drift further, imagining that at this very moment, a ship could be hovering miles above Earth, cloaked in a way you'll never detect. Its crew might be watching, logging, debating whether to make themselves known. The silence you feel is not absence, but restraint. And you, floating through your own thoughts, are caught between skepticism and wonder. For a moment, you can almost see them, not the monsters of pulp magazines, but beings of strange grace, leaning over instruments, studying you with curiosity. Their silence isn't threatening. It's patient. They're waiting, the way a parent waits for a child to grow. You feel both humbled and a little embarrassed, like a goldfish realizing the bowl was never private. Whether they've come before or whether they're still here, the thought itself is enough to make the stars look different. No longer empty, no longer indifferent. Watchful, ancient, waiting. You slip from the realm of secret saucers and desert bunkers into a different kind of strangeness. One less about whispers in the night, and more about the artifacts of civilizations so advanced they might not even notice you. The stars themselves feel like museum halls now, and you wander through them scanning for evidence of technological ghosts. Here's the rational anchor. Astronomers routinely look for techno-signatures, signs of alien industry written across the cosmos. Radio signals, odd flickers in starlight, unnatural heat signatures. It's the scientific version of leaving a light on in the window for passing travelers. One mainstream fact: a star doesn't just shine, it leaks information. By studying its spectrum, scientists can detect elements in its atmosphere. So if we ever spot a star smeared with pollutants that don't belong, that might be a billboard screaming, civilization was here, but the fringes stretch further. Imagine Dyson spheres, vast shells built around suns to capture every drop of energy, or swarms of satellites encircling planets until they glow brighter than natural. Theoretically, such structures could be detected. In fact, astronomers have flagged suspicious stars, like the infamous Tabby star, whose bizarre dimming patterns once sparked whispers of megastructures. Scientists still argue whether dust clouds explain it, or whether something stranger lingers behind the flicker. And here comes cosmic joke number 8. If aliens really did build Dyson spheres, then your best chance of finding them isn't by listening for a polite hello, but by catching them failing to pay their cosmic electricity bill. Waste heat spilling into space like a neon trail might be the only clue. You drift past these imagined megastructures, picturing their builders. Maybe they reach heights so far beyond your grasp that their existence looks like natural law. To an ant, a skyscraper is unimaginable, yet it looms overhead all the same. In the same way, maybe alien technology is everywhere, but your brain keeps filing it under stars or nebulae. Some fringe thinkers argue that aliens might leave deliberate breadcrumbs, ancient monuments aligned with stars, or repeating mathematical patterns encoded in pulsar signals. You probably heard the claim: pyramids not just tombs, but cosmic calling cards. Maybe that's nonsense, maybe not. What if the reason we don't see their technology is because we're living inside it, like ants crawling across circuitry, too small to see the design? Yet the silence persists. If these ghosts exist, they don't announce themselves. Maybe that's the point. Maybe once you reach a certain level of advancement, contact with younger civilizations becomes meaningless, like explaining algebra to a goldfish. Or maybe they are gone. Civilizations rise, build wonders, and then vanish, leaving only hollow artifacts spinning through the dark. The stars might be filled not with thriving empires, but with ruins, abandoned Dyson swarms, silent rings, empty stations orbiting like tombstones. Scientists still argue whether our telescopes are sensitive enough to even detect such signs. Maybe we've been looking the wrong way. Maybe the ghosts are there, flickering just outside the range of what your instruments can see. The thought is both maddening and comforting. If you can't see them, at least you're spared the knowledge of how fragile everything really is. But you can't shake the idea. Every flicker in the sky could be a shadow of something immense. Every anomaly, a whisper of a story older than your species. You float through this imagined graveyard of ghosts and wonder whether humanity's own lights will someday flicker the same way. Curious, mysterious, unexplained to whoever drifts by next. For now, the stars are your companions, silent and watchful. You drift among them like a visitor in a library where all the books are sealed. The words are there, the knowledge is waiting, but the covers are shut tight. You keep scanning the shelves, half hoping for a page to slip open, revealing that you were never alone after all. You leave the ghostly megastructures behind and drift into a stranger problem, one that feels less like absence and more like a delay. The silence in the sky may not mean emptiness at all. It may just mean you're living inside a cosmic time lag. Here's the anchor. Light moves fast, but not infinitely fast. It takes a little over 8 minutes for sunlight to reach your face on Earth. That same beam of light needs 4 years to cross the gap to Proxima Centauri, the nearest star. Now scale that the Milky Way itself is 100,000 light years wide. A signal from one side could take longer to arrive than the entire span of recorded human history. You're staring at stars whose stories began before you learned to walk upright. So maybe the aliens are talking, but you just haven't caught up yet. Or worse, maybe they're already gone. Imagine a civilization sending greetings 5,000 years ago, just as the pyramids rose. The message is still racing through the dark, but by the time it reaches you, their cities may have crumbled to dust. The call arrives, but the caller is long dead. That's the cruel math of cosmic conversation. And here's a fringe twist. Some conspiracy-minded thinkers argue that the famous WOW signal, one sharp burst detected in 1977, wasn't just static. They like to imagine it was a voicemail of a vanished species, a message dropped into your inbox centuries too late. Scientists still argue whether it was a passing comet, an Earth-based reflection, or something more exotic. The fact that you'll probably never know gives it a mythical weight, like a love letter found in a bottle but signed by a ghost. Cosmic time lag plays out in other ways too. Imagine sending a reply back to that vanished civilization. Even if they'd survived, your response would take thousands of years. That's a two-sided tragedy. By the time you say hello, the other side is already cold. It's like pen pals whose letters cross oceans not in weeks, but in millennia, a relationship doomed by physics itself. Here's your ninth cosmic joke. If you ever do make interstellar friends, don't expect instant messaging. Expect arguments that last generations, love letters read by great-great-grandchildren, and awkward silences measured in centuries. Space is the worst Wi-Fi zone imaginable. Yet there's another possibility, one even stranger. Maybe alien civilizations are aware of this delay, and they account for it by sending messages not to their contemporaries, but to the future. Imagine a species deliberately broadcasting signals with the hope that someone, someday, will finally tune in. They know they'll be gone before the conversation begins, but they leave breadcrumbs anyway. You could be living inside a galaxy full of time capsules, each waiting to be opened. Scientists still argue whether your telescopes are even capable of picking up such faint relics. Maybe the signals are there, but too weak, too old, or smeared by cosmic interference. The universe is noisy in its own way. Pulsars, quasars, gamma-ray bursts. Alien whispers could be buried under static, hidden like a violin playing in the middle of a thunderstorm. And then the darker angle. Maybe we missed them already. Maybe signals passed Earth thousands of years ago, when humans were still painting caves with ochre and chasing mammoths across the steppe. The chance came and went unnoticed. You stand here in the present, staring at the sky, unaware that your invitation got lost in the mail 10,000 years ago. The lag isn't just communication, it's perspective. Every star you see tonight is old news. You are looking at fossils of light. A galaxy shining now might have collapsed long before you were born. So when you say you want to meet aliens, you're really asking to meet their past. The beings who built those cities may not exist anymore, even though their light still dazzles your eyes. Floating here, you feel the lag not as numbers but as loneliness stretched across time. Every star is a postcard from a world you can't reach, and you start to wonder whether one day someone far away will see your light too late, will watch Earth's blue glow long after you're gone, and wonder why the once bright signal suddenly went quiet. You let the thought of postcards fade into static, and then you stumble on the wildest suspicion of all. Maybe the reason you can't find aliens is because the whole show is scripted. The Fermi Paradox might not be a cosmic mystery, but a design feature, carefully woven into a simulation. Think about it. Your daily reality is already filled with simulations, video games, digital twins, virtual reality headsets. A single smartphone in your hand carries more computational power than NASA used to land people on the moon. Scientists still argue whether this technological curve points toward a future where creating simulated worlds isn't just possible, but inevitable. If humans could run countless artificial universes, then statistically, you might already be inside one. Now add the paradox. If this is a simulation, maybe the programmers left aliens out on purpose. Too much complexity would strain the system. Or maybe they wanted you to feel uniquely special. After all, what's a story without a protagonist? You might be living in the human's only version of the game. Somewhere in the control room, a cosmic intern is sipping coffee and muttering, "Don't render aliens to that save file. It's already buggy enough." Here's the grounded fact. Philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed a simulation hypothesis in 2003, arguing that one of three things must be true. Either civilizations never survived long enough to create simulations, or they survive but never bother making them, or, most likely, you're already inside one. Fringe or not, the idea forces you to tilt your head at the sky differently. Maybe the silence isn't cosmic, it's coded. You're a 10th cosmic joke. If this is a simulation, then aliens exist, but the developers locked them behind downloadable content. Unfortunately, you can't buy the expansion pack. The intergalactic store doesn't accept your currency. The simulation angle also explains the uncanny precision of physics. Constants like the speed of light, the strength of gravity, and the fine structure constant all line up in ways that let life exist. Too perfect? Maybe those numbers are just part of the program's settings file. Scientists still argue whether this fine-tuning means divine design, multiverse accidents, or an intentional algorithm. Whatever the case, you're inside a universe suspiciously well-calibrated for your comfort. But then there's the glitch theory. What if UFO sightings, déjà vu, or Mandela effect memories aren't human errors, but hiccups in the code? Conspiracy forums love to whisper that aliens are here, but you only catch glimpses because the simulation lags when rendering them. Like when a video game stutters and you see something that wasn't supposed to load yet. Another unsettling angle. Maybe aliens exist, but they're not rendered until you look closely. Much like distant stars, which are visible only because the program generates their light. Entire civilizations might flicker into existence only when you point a telescope at them. Reality on demand. You could be a participant in the longest, slowest loading open world game ever designed. Here's where your brain starts to itch. If this is a simulation, who's running it? Humans of the future, testing their ancestors? Aliens creating playgrounds for research? Or maybe entities so far beyond comprehension that you're like ants beneath a magnifying glass. The unsettling punchline is that you might never know. The programmers don't need you to. And yet, the simulation angle offers a peculiar comfort. If aliens are absent because they're not coded, then the silence isn't a mystery. It's a boundary. You stop straining your ears for whispers in the night and accept the quiet as part of the script. Like a stage set with painted stars, it doesn't need to be real to feel profound. You float deeper into the suspicion, and it twists the paradox back on itself. If you can't find aliens, maybe that's because they're looking for you, as avatars in their own simulations. Imagine alien scientists running universes in which humans are the missing piece. They're asking the same bedtime question in their own digital skies. Where are all the others? The silence, then, might be the echo of countless simulations stacked on top of each other, each wondering why it's so alone. Like Russian dolls, reality hides inside reality, and the one thing no doll can ever see is a hand holding it. You push away the thought of programmers sipping cosmic lattes, but your drift doesn't slow. Instead, it slides sideways into something even stranger, infinite universes. If one reality can be simulated, then maybe countless others exist, whether through quantum branching, cosmic inflation, or just sheer cosmic weirdness. Each universe a bubble, and you're floating inside one with no window into the next. Here's the grounded fact. Inflationary cosmology suggests that the universe expanded faster than light in its first moments, spawning pocket universes that may still inflate elsewhere beyond your horizon. Scientists still argue whether these pockets form a multiverse or if it's just a mathematical artifact of models. Either way, the idea sticks. What if aliens aren't missing? They're simply next door in a universe stitched too far from yours to reach? Now imagine this twist. In one branch of reality, Earth never cooled enough for life. In another, dinosaurs became spacefaring overlords. In another, aliens look for you and find silence, just as you do here. The Fermi Paradox might not be a single question, but an infinite recursion, asked across realities that can't overlap. You're not alone, but you're sealed off like a fish in an endless aquarium wall. Fringe tidbit time. Quantum mechanics already plays coy with reality. The many worlds interpretation suggests every time you make a choice, sip coffee or tea, scroll one more page or not, the universe splits. If that's true, then you already exist in infinite variations, each floating alongside alternate yous. Picture a tired, parallel you sighing at a bedtime story about why aliens haven't shown up in the sky. Your 11th cosmic joke. Somewhere out there, another version of you is the alien. He's peering down at Earth, squinting, muttering, "Strange, why is that planet so quiet?" Poor guy doesn't know he's complaining about you. The multiverse lens reframes the paradox. Aliens aren't missing, they're abundant. But each reality carries its own filter. Maybe some universes brim with galactic empires, while others remain barren. The trick is that you're stuck inside this one, forever unable to cross into another. Scientists still argue whether inter-universe travel could ever exist, but right now it's like trying to swim across a TV channel to shake hands with someone in another show. And yet, the infinite possibilities make the silence oddly soothing. If you zoom out far enough, the Fermi Paradox dissolves. Somewhere, aliens thrive. Somewhere else, humanity never evolves. Somewhere, cosmic civilizations collide in fireworks you'll never see. The question, where is everyone, becomes almost comical like asking why you can't hear the neighbors when you're in a different building entirely. But here's the catch. If infinite universes exist, then so does at least one where aliens deliberately are hiding from you. One where civilizations play the dark forest game endlessly. Another where you're nothing more than code in their experiment. Every theory you've entertained up to now plays out in one universe or another. Infinity doesn't solve the paradox. It just multiplies into a fractal of sleepless questions. Still, your mind softens at the thought. The silence of your universe may be absolute, but out there, in another layer of reality, someone's telling their own version of the same bedtime story. You'll never hear them, but maybe the thought that they exist is enough. Maybe infinity is its own lullaby, whispering that nothing is truly alone, even if everything feels that way. You let the thought of infinite universes drift away, and for the first time tonight, you circle back to yourself, your species, your little blue marble. A question stirs that's both terrifying and oddly comforting. What if you're the first? Not just the first in your neighborhood or your galaxy, but the first in the entire observable universe to cross that threshold of consciousness, to build rockets, to whisper into microphones about distant stars. Here's a solid anchor. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old, and Earth has only been around for about a third of that. Life appeared early here, within a few 100 million years, and complex life much later. Statistically, if intelligent life is common, someone should have beaten you to it, yet you still wait for a call that never comes. Scientists still argue whether intelligence is a rare cosmic accident or an inevitable step once conditions line up. Being first means you're a cosmic pioneer. Every telescope you point outward is essentially the first pair of eyes to catch a glimpse. Every signal you send is the opening verse in a song no one else has started singing yet. The paradox melts into a kind of opportunity. You're not late to the party. You're hosting it. Fringe tidbit to chew on. Some thinkers call this a cosmic early bird scenario. Civilizations might appear sporadically across billions of years, but because stars will keep forming for trillions more, humanity could be ridiculously early. You're like the person who shows up to a concert when the roadies are still setting up amps, muttering, "Where's everyone else?" The answer is, they haven't even been born yet. Your 12th cosmic joke. If humanity is the first, imagine the pressure. You're basically the universe's intern, expected to file reports, tidy the place, and maybe invent interstellar Spotify, so the next species has good playlists. Hope you can sign up for that unpaid gig. But think about the weight of it. If you're first, then your survival matters far more than you like to admit. Every stumble, every war, every reckless choice with climate, every shiny doomsday button isn't just about humans. It's about whether consciousness itself survives in this sector of the cosmos. If you fall, maybe nothing rises here again for billions of years. Being first also carries an eerie loneliness. Pioneers on Earth at least had the promise that others would follow. The first sailor to cross an ocean could dream of ports on the other side. You drift with the unsettling sense that the nearest peers might not exist until the sun itself has burned out and new stars are born. Scientists still argue whether this makes the Fermi Paradox more or less frightening. If intelligence is that rare, maybe you are indeed unique, for now. Or maybe being early just means you'll have a head start before the cosmic neighbors show up centuries or millennia later. The silence, then, isn't an absence. It's just a pause before the chorus begins. And there's a strange beauty in that. If you're first, you're the one writing the rules, the first footprints pressed into galactic sand. The quiet night sky becomes less an accusation and more an invitation. Go on, it whispers, light the way. The thought of being first lingers, but soon another shadow sidles in. What if you're not first at all? What if you're already too late? You tilt your head to the stars and imagine civilizations that bloomed, spread, and vanished long before Earth even cooled. Their lights flickered. Their empires stretched across constellations. But by the time you arrived, nothing remained but silent ashes. Here's the grounded piece. The average star is older than the sun. Many formed billions of years before your system existed. If life is common, entire civilizations could have risen and fallen before Earth was even a thought. Scientists still argue whether the galaxy's true silence isn't about a lack of aliens, but about the long gaps between civilizations that rarely overlap in time. The fringe angle is more haunting. Some people speculate about cosmic ruins, advanced societies that left behind artifacts drifting invisibly in space, maybe in your own solar system, like ancient pottery shards buried under sand, except scaled up to Dyson spheres crumbling in the dark. You might already be walking through a graveyard, but the tombstones are hidden in shadows your telescopes can't yet pierce. Your 13th cosmic joke. If aliens did leave ruins, you'd probably mistake them for space junk, file a report, and then argue online about whether it's just another satellite. Imagine archaeologists from the year 3024 saying, "Oops, we threw away the Milky Way's Rosetta Stone because we thought it was an old booster rocket." The too late scenario reframes the paradox as tragic rather than puzzling. The universe could be littered with stories already told. You arrived at the theater long after the final curtain dropped. The applause is gone, the actors left, and you're sitting in the dark, clutching popcorn that no one will ever share. But there's a sliver of wonder in it, too. If civilizations come and go, maybe you're part of a relay. Others carried the torch before, and now it's in your hands. You might not meet them, but you inherit their stage. Perhaps the ruins, if they exist, are not warnings but whispers. We were here. Now it's your turn. Scientists still argue whether humanity's search for extraterrestrials is archaeology of the present or future anthropology of the cosmos. Are you seeking living neighbors or just the fossils of civilizations past? The answer might never be clear, but in the silence, you can almost sense the weight of history pressing down. Not just Earth's history, but the ghostly record of lives and minds that burn out long before you dreamed. And maybe that's what makes the night sky so heavy. It isn't just emptiness. It's memory, stretching billions of years wide, full of echoes you'll never hear. The paradox isn't only where's everyone, but also where did everyone go? You let the thought of ancient civilizations fade, and instead you begin to wonder if the paradox isn't about them at all. Maybe it's about you. What if you've been searching in the wrong ways, using tools too primitive, eyes too narrow? The silence of the cosmos might not be emptiness, but a misreading, like trying to pick up a radio broadcast with a seashell. Here's a steady fact. Radio waves travel at the speed of light, but they also weaken, scatter, and drown in cosmic noise. After a few hundred light years, your strongest signals dissolve into static. If alien civilizations use entirely different forms of communication, lasers, neutrinos, quantum entanglement, you'd never notice. Scientists still argue whether humanity's radio window is just a brief and clumsy phase, one that advanced civilizations outgrow quickly. The fringe tidbit is irresistible. Some theorists claim aliens could communicate through structures in space-time itself, embedding messages in the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang. Imagine the entire universe as one enormous billboard flashing a hello you just haven't decoded yet. You're not hearing silence. You're staring at the message but can't read the font. Your 14th cosmic joke. It's like try to text your grandparents and realizing they only reply in Morse code carved on wooden spoons. The conversation isn't absent. It's just happening in a medium you're hilariously unprepared for. And that brings you back to a sobering possibility. Maybe the paradox exists because your senses are so limited. You evolved to see a sliver of light, to hear a narrow range of sound, to think in human-sized chunks of logic. Expecting aliens to fall into that same box is like demanding whales compose symphonies in piano notation. The universe might be roaring with life, but you're standing there with earplugs in. Scientists still argue whether this makes the paradox a failure of imagination or a lesson in humility. Perhaps your role isn't to demand answers, but to expand perception until you finally notice what's been hiding in plain sight. After all, every leap in human history, microscopes, telescopes, radio dishes, has revealed worlds that were already there. And maybe that's the quiet promise. The silence you hear tonight isn't permanent. It's a placeholder, waiting for you to build better instruments, sharper minds, wider senses. The stars aren't ignoring you. They're simply speaking a language you haven't learned yet. And somewhere in that cosmic dictionary, a greeting is already written. You've drifted through so many versions of the paradox. Aliens hidden, extinct, too far, too strange. And now you land in perhaps the most unsettling yet oddly comforting idea. Maybe they're already here. Not in flying saucers zipping over cities, not in grainy photos of glowing orbs, but quietly, invisibly, woven into the edges of your world. Here's the grounded piece. Statistically, there are billions of planets in the galaxy that can host life. Odds suggest you shouldn't be alone. Scientists still argue whether rare Earth conditions, like plate tectonics, a big stabilizing moon, and a protective magnetic field, make your planet freakishly lucky, or if life naturally arises wherever it can. Either way, the math whispers that neighbors are likely. The fringe angle leans into the unsettling. Theories of a zoo hypothesis, where advanced beings watch Earth like curators observing an exhibit. They don't announce themselves because the experiment works best when you don't know you're in it. Every now and then, UFO stories, strange anomalies, and eerie coincidences become whispers of this possibility. Whether real or just human imagination, they keep the tension alive. Your 15th cosmic joke. If aliens are watching, they probably tune into your internet comment section and decided to keep their distance. Nothing says not ready for interstellar contact like arguing for 12 hours over pineapple on pizza. The heart of it is this. Maybe the paradox isn't a mystery to be solved, but a mirror held up to humanity. The silence of the stars forces you to ask what kind of civilization you are becoming. Would you announce yourself, or would you hide? Would you reach out, or would you stay quiet? And somewhere in this question lies the whisper of responsibility. If you are early, you set the tone for what comes next. If you are late, you carry the memory of those before. If you are alone, you become the story the universe tells itself. The paradox leaves you with no final answer, only a lullaby of possibilities stretching across the dark. Maybe you're surrounded by neighbors just out of sight. Maybe you're the last torchbearer in a theater of ghosts. Maybe the silence is temporary, or maybe it's forever. Either way, you drift now in that silence, and it feels almost gentle, like a great ocean holding you, inviting you to dream. And now, as the final thoughts of this journey settle, you let your breathing slow. The paradox no longer feels sharp or frightening. Instead, it softens into a wide horizon, a space so vast it welcomes rest. The stars overhead blur slightly, not from absence, but from the comfort of distance. They shine, and that's enough. Each possibility you've wandered through, whether solitude, mystery, or hidden company, has become less about answers and more about perspective. You see yourself smaller, lighter, part of a grander story where questions themselves are treasures. The silence that once pressed down now feels like a blanket, thick and calm, muffling the noise of the day. You imagine the galaxy not as empty, but as patient. Time stretches, and in that long pause you find your own rhythm slowing, your thoughts untangling, your body relaxing deeper into stillness. The cosmic riddle continues, but it no longer demands urgency. It waits like a gentle tide, knowing you can return whenever you're ready. The darkness around you softens. The fan hums, steady as a heartbeat. Your eyelids grow heavier, and even the paradox, so vast, so puzzling, seems like a lullaby now. If aliens are out there, they can wait. If they're not, the stars will still keep you company tonight. And so, with a final deep breath, you surrender to the quiet, not to solve the mystery, not to escape it, but to rest within it. Let the universe hold the questions while you drift into dreams. Thanks for watching and sweet dreams.